So next up, we have Jane, Principal Engineer and Manager at MarkLogic, and she's going to be talking about security. So Jane, are you ready?
Yeah.
And off you go.
Hi. So I'll start to ask a question to the audience. Who thinks that data security is a hard problem? Oh yeah, we have a lot of hands up. It must be, because otherwise you wouldn't hear all the bad news on the, about data breaches all the time, right? So like Equifax, a household name, not for the good reason though, here's their CEO telling Congress that he's not sure whether the data is encrypted or not. Uber, they did try to encrypt their data, but they didn't store their encryption key properly. So again, a massive data breach. So is data security really that hard? My answer is no, if you're using MarkLogic. Here at MarkLogic, we believe a database has to protect itself. MarkLogic provides sophisticated encryption that is easy to set up. I'll show you in just a minute. And also, it comes with an embedded key store, and you can also point it to an external one. I have two diagrams here which shows the separation of roles and that you see here for both the local and external KMS. So in both cases, for a system admin who has access to your file system file, he doesn't have access to the data in your database. And furthermore, for an external KMS, a DBA who has access to configure your database, he isn't necessarily granted access to the external KMS. And encryption in MarkLogic is super fast thanks to the Intel V3 hardware acceleration. So now I'm going to start my demo. Here, I have a cluster set up, 3-node, using the VPC CloudFormation template that Sarah just showed you. I wanted to use this to store my customer data. And before I do that, I want to first configure encryption. So what I do is that I come to AWS and I log into the console, and I want to create encryption key for my data. And I select my region, give it a name. Let's say it's ML customer data. And here, I specify a role, which is myself, to be the key admin. This page, I specify which role gets to use the key for encryption and decryption. Now I confirm my policy, and I have the data created. So this is the one that I just created. I copy the key here, coming back to MarkLogic instance, and I want to specify the key for my, so here I switch to external key. I get to specify 3 different keys for data, config, and log, and I'll use the same one that I just created, and I turn on encryption for the whole cluster. Now that I have that done, I go to my customer database and get some data loaded. So once I have my data loaded, what I'll do is that I want to create a backup of my data to an S3 bucket. So I'm doing a forest backup, and here's my S3 bucket. Not yet. All right, some data has been backed up here. While the data is being backed up, let's imagine that there's a hacker who has got hold of the copy of data in my S3 bucket. What this hacker is going to do, he's going to set up an instance on Amazon as well. And he's saying, given that I have some data, why don't I try to restore this data to my forest and see if I can take a peek of what they have there. So imagine that this is the bucket that he has stolen, and he wants to do a restore. Here, MarkLogic is saying, cannot decrypt the data. The reason being that this instance, this hacker instance, is not running in the same IAM role as the one that my demo instance has. So now going back to my demo instance, I want to prove that I'll be able to do a restore successfully with the same S3 bucket. Confirm. And the restore is happening. So, yeah. Now I have the data back. All right. So to conclude, MarkLogic is the best database to protect your data. It is now easier and faster, and also well integrated into the cloud. Thank you.
So one more thing. I'm committing to this, right? So you mentioned internal and external KMS systems. Is there any performance difference between the two?
No, there isn't. And to learn more about the details, I ask everybody to come to our security workshop that's going on tomorrow. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jane.